Ladies and gentlemen, Boker Tov, Shabbat Shalom. Can you wave to me? Thank you. Thank you. I wanted just to tell you that today's is Parashat Re'eh. Re'eh. Can you say Re'eh, all of us? Re'eh.
Re'eh.
That's very good. Now, why am I saying? Because most of us say Re'eh. I want to say the Anyhow, this is our Parsha this morning has very interesting themes, and we are going to show you what the themes are, and then I'm going to show you a special videotape that will take about 40 seconds, and I would like you to connect the videotape to the Parsha. Okay, so here are the main points of the Parsha. So it's very simple: blessing and curses. Okay, the choice between blessings for obedience and curses for disobedience. And then the concept of free will in making moral choices. Okay, the second one is the centralization of worship. And remember, we're talking about 3,000 years ago. The command to establish a single place for worship. It's not relatively, it doesn't relate to today's life, but there was one single place. And I want to tell you that in the Parsha that we're talking today, we don't know where is that single place. A place that I will show you. We don't know exactly where it is. Later on, we do. The implication for community and unity religious festivals. We're very happy people, always have three main festivals, always involved with food. And the main theme of each holiday is V'samachta b'chagecha. Does anyone translate V'samachta b'chagecha? You always should rejoice and be happy in your holidays. Even if it's a sad time for you, you have to leave it aside for the time being, and then later on go back to what happened in the past. 3. Okay, we talk about dietary laws, the significance of kosher laws, and the relationship between food, spirituality, and identity. Ladies and gentlemen, when I fly, for example, from BWI to Las Vegas, okay, with Southwest Airways, I always impressed that the pretzels that they give to 99.9% passengers are kosher. Do the people care about that? But look at this, how small minority has so much influence as far as kashrut in this country.
Eyal, excuse me, Becca, could you let Beverly Freeland in, please? There's a message, host has locked out. She just called. Let me know, honey, if you get on. Are you on?
You can tell her to try to re-enter again.
Okay, Becca said try to re-enter and then call me back or text back. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, he also talks about the Parsha. He's talking about community, religious festivals, and community, the importance of celebrating Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot. Okay, and does anyone know which is the most celebrated holiday about the 3 festivals? Just tell me what you think the most celebrated holiday among Jews.
Passover.
That's correct. And the second one is not there, is Hanukkah, for your information. It's not there, it's Hanukkah. Community obligation and the role of festivals in Jewish identity. 2 more topics, and then we'll go and show you a videotape. Okay. Okay, so I think we can now go, and I want to show you this videotape that happened on Wednesday this week. This is Kawid Farhan Al-Qadi, who is a Bedouin former hostage that was in Gaza for 326 days. He was rescued this week. Then David and I had a very nice discussion about that earlier. And I wanted to ask you, when you look at this 40 seconds clip, how can you connect this clip to our Parsha today? In many ways you can come up, and when we close this presentation today, could you please think about this guy? He's Bedouin, he's Muslim, and Israel rescued him this week. Well, let's see it. Okay. This is the hostage that you saw that was rescued this week from Gaza in a very secretive operation with the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, and one important person that was shown to the world, that Pidyon Shvuim, the rescue of hostages, and big value in Judaism. So think about it, and how do we connect it to the Parsha today? Okay, before we read, I want you to think about a couple of questions. And Becca will put it on. Okay. Okay, these are personal reflections, questions that I want you to think as we learn about this Parsha today. What does the concept of blessing and curses mean in your life today? We don't have to answer it, but I want you to think about it if you review the Parsha after we leave. In what ways can we strengthen our community ties through the observance of Jewish festivals? Okay. We also have some crisis today in our Jewish communities. We have less attendance in synagogues, in Hebrew schools, and how can we bring it back to where we were? Can we or not? And same thing with Shabbat. How can we bring Shabbat to be a more active service? How do you personally connect with dietary laws? What challenges do you face? It's not that I'm asking you if you keep kosher, it's not my business. But does dietary laws, do they mean anything to you? Does it make you feel somewhere? Anyway, I want to hear if you have any opinion on that. You can even send me a note if you have to. I'm interested to know if it's something that's still in your thoughts, thinking, you know? Okay, next one. This will be a few words in Hebrew, but I'm not going to go there. The most important word, we won't go about them today. If we have time, I'd like to teach you a couple of important words in Hebrew that are very important about this Parsha. Next, please. It will be on the Facebook. Now, philosophical question. Share how the teaching of Parashat Re can be applied in your daily lives, enhancing their connection to Jewish tradition and community. You'll see a lot of things that you can really relate to what you do today. Okay, giving tzedakah, thinking about being always happy and look for the future. That's the Parsha that is talking about. Share on a personal experience where choices led to clear outcome, both positive and negative. How does this align with the concept of blessings and curses? Okay, I just want to hear your opinion or think about how is a central place of worship important to the community? What is the central place today? Where is it? Do we have a central place for worship? I know you're going to say maybe the Kotel, Yerushalayim, but are there other places for you that is your personal worship place? Next one. And okay, I put for you here a beautiful commentary from Ibn Ezra that relates to the Parsha. If we don't have time, I'd like you to read it because it's very interesting and relates well to our story. Okay, Rebecca, we're gonna start the Parsha, so let's go and read and see where we are. And we have two more YouTubes that I want, very small ones at the end, that it's current event and also very much related to the Parsha. So we are in Etz Chaim.
Eyal?
Yeah.
Excuse me, quick question. Outside of the main sanctuary in the hallway, there's a lot of artwork. Does that say blessings and curses above it? Or I'm not sure what the wording is above those paintings.
You know what? I don't recall, but I'm going to look at that and call you back.
Okay.
And where is it at Bethel? Where is it?
It's outside of the main sanctuary before you get to the doors that lead outside.
Okay. Outside the three letters word there, the three letters it says Emet.
Right. It's inside.
Yeah.
And there were benches there and there were paintings that were dedicated.
Okay.
And I'm
trying
to remember what the wording was.
Okay. I'll
check
it.
Where the big Torah is? Where that big Torah is?
Yes. Yes.
But on the walls.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to say a word or two about what you saw thus far, it's okay before we start reading. If someone has a comment, I'm happy to hear your comment. If you have
Judy,
any,
Rabbi Schwartz in his Devar Torah yesterday in the morning service pointed out in the Gorn, you have the sconces around, and as you look at the Shulchan, the upper left says blessing,
Mhm,
but does not say curses.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Okay, thank you. Very good. Meryl?
Thank you. Shabbat shalom, everybody. I'm probably not the only one who is troubled, and I try to figure out a balance between the covenantal nature of our pact with God, and that he's very, very good to us if and when we follow his ways. And not so good, bad things happen to us. Of course, it's not God's fault, it's our fault, free will to do things that are not in line with keeping his commandments. So I guess that's probably the crux of it, with the idea of the loving God, the loving God, the loving God. He's loving, things go our way when we follow his ways. Maybe I just answers my question, but does that bother anyone else? And I guess the key is free will. If we mess up, it's our fault, not his fault. So he's a loving God, but he's a loving God when we follow his ways and follow the mitzvot and the hukim and all the laws in the Torah.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right. That's
Merle,
great.
could I respond to that?
Absolutely.
I
Thanks.
think that God is always a loving God, but we've equated him to like a parent and a child. And even if a parent disciplines, doesn't mean the love isn't there. That's how I see it.
Okay. And I want just to say one more thing here. I hear the Israeli broadcasting this week. I heard it many times. And a lot of religious people in Israel now question October 7th.
Yeah.
More and more religious people are now feeling like they felt in the Holocaust, past the Holocaust. And there are a lot of talks about it. And we're very frustrated. Many of us.
Do you mean, Eyal, do you mean like where was God on October 7th?
Yes. Where was God on October 7th? That relates to what Meryl and Judy said. Yes.
I have one more thing to sort of comment on. I think conservative and not orthodox, that we place too much, it's going to come, I'm trying to word this right, too much responsibility on God. I believe in there's a higher being in God, and we have certain ways and rules and regulations, but it's like somebody did everything right, but they're ill. I mean, let's say a young child or something of that nature. You can't say God did this because somebody someplace, maybe it wasn't this generation, or I always think, as Judy said, God was the loving parent. He made us, he taught us the rules, and now it's up to us. I just think that when you say there's a loving God and then there's a God that if we don't do such and such, I just think that I have a lot of hard time with the concept. So that's, each time I think of it, I don't know if I get a resolution. But
Well, like Harold Kushner, Bev, when good things happen to bad people.
yeah, well, I mean,
There aren't.
There are not any answers.
Right.
And I think that we have to, when you talked about being kosher, not kosher, why? I think you have to do, if you feel that you live by certain ethics, I think then that's okay. I don't think, some people can live by the book. They can, ABC, I go to an acupuncturist that 20 some years ago, he became Orthodox. And that's fine. I just quickly, because I'm taking time, my great niece was bat mitzvah. The mother wasn't Jewish, and she decided at 11, etc. And she did a phenomenal, she had to learn from the beginning. Her whole bat mitzvah, she read from the Torah. It was incredible. And this wonderful man said, but she's not Jewish. She hasn't gone to the mikvah. We need every Jew we can get. So I argue with him. I disagree. So, yes, she's Jewish. Her father's Jewish. Maybe she couldn't get married. So there's a lot of fuzziness in my brain when it comes to this, but I'll stop now. Thank
Okay,
you.
I'll do a my story with you. You know, once a month I do my story program at Bethel. We'll talk about it, and you'll share more of your thoughts. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, David, can you start reading one of the Davids?
Sure, I
Okay.
got it.
Okay,
Page 1061 in Reah
right. On Etz Chaim, in Etz Chaim.
in Eitz Chaim, yeah.
Yeah.
See, this day I set before you blessing and curse. Blessing if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God that I enjoin upon you this day, and curse if you do not obey the commandments of the Lord your God, but turn away from the path that I enjoin upon you this day, and follow other gods whom you have not experienced.
Okay, hold on for a second. So, David, how direct is God with the people here? Is there any warmth in that sentence? Any friendly? Is he talking like a prosecutor? Is he talking like, how is he talking here, God? If you were to describe it.
It's binary. You got a choice. You can either follow and be blessed, or not follow and be cursed.
So it's very direct here, right? It's to the point. There is no, what do you call it, foreplay?
No,
Stop, stop.
there's no equivocating. There's no halfway. Leeway.
Okay. So he's right there to the point, direct to the people. If you're good, you will be blessed. If not, you'll be cursed. Okay. All right. So anyone has a problem with that, or anyone has some, could he can you make it a little bit warmer? Could he had a little bit more, make it more romantic? So that's something that I have an issue with. Okay.
Eyal, since you've opened the door for me, I'm sorry, Richie, do you want to say something?
David, you go ahead.
Okay, so when I read this, it sounded so much like another passage, so I even looked it up, which is the choose life. So in Deuteronomy, further on, it says, I have put before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Blessing and curse. It's like the same phrase to me, but later on when it's choose life or death, I view it as philosophical, not actual death, Beverly, as you were getting to. And that helped me to understand this sentence right here, that you have a choice. And it's not that God's going to do this, but you have the ability to choose. So that's how I kind of moderated it.
Okay. Thank you, David. Richie?
Just several things. One, just to comment on what we discussed a moment ago about the Holocaust, and it's very, very difficult to try to understand how that could have occurred. But and I used to like the explanation. There's just things we don't understand. But I do like the explanation that man has free will, and so that goes a long way, I think, to explain what happened, and doesn't, like Judy said, God is loving, but man has free will. The other thing about the blessings and curses is that it can be interpreted as reward and punishment, and that, I think, that concept is not sometimes not very appealing to us, but it does, I think, translate to the choices we make. How we live our life determines whether things go well or not go well. And the final thing I want to mention is that we all find the commandments difficult to we have to follow every commandment or things won't go well. Well, I think we don't accept that. Many people don't in modern times. But what's interesting here is that God gives, right when he says blessings and curses, he gives what we could think is the number one thing that he cares about. Immediately after he says blessings and curses, he says, don't follow other gods. So I think that's important to know, and it's repeated throughout, that God's main concern is that we not follow other gods, and that can be viewed as we have to have faith in God as one of the main teachings of Torah.
That's so nice what you said.
Yeah.
Hold on just a second. That's exactly where I wanted to take you now. This is the most important value for God is don't look at others and be loyal to me. So if God here asking first thing is be loyal to me, be faithful to me. That's the most important thing that God has, because he knew that they're going to Canaan and there are many other gods. So before they enter Canaan, he is telling them, before you enter, know that I'm your God. Don't fool around. Okay, be loyal to me. Meryl.
I was going to say what you and Richie just said, that what frames this is who's saying it and when and where. So Moshe needs to imprint this idea strongly in the minds. This is what he wants the people to pull up when they're in Canaan and when they're surrounded by paganism. So he spends a lot of time with harsh language imprinting this mandate, about loyalty to one God and not being swayed by the paganism and the polytheism that they'll encounter in Canaan. And that language is harsh, and he says it more than once because of the need for the people to remember this above all else.
Very good, very good. And there is a word here in Hebrew, lalechet acharai, to walk, to go behind me. And there is a value in the Israeli army. Acharai means the officer, the leader goes first. In other words, you guys walk my path. You walk after me. Lalechet, to walk acharai. Very good. Thank you. Good comments. Number 20, David, can you move on to 29, please?
Okay. When the Lord your God brings you into the land that you are about to enter and possess, you shall pronounce the blessing at Mount Gerizim and the curse at Mount Ebal.
Okay. Does anyone know where these mountains are? Gerizim and are Ebal. I sent you a picture of that, Rebecca. By any chance you got it? I wanted to show you. It's next to Shechem. There are two Shechem, Nablus. It's in the West Bank. Too beautiful, but the view is heroic there. It's so spiritual. If you have the picture, I don't know if you got it. I looked at it. One mountain.
I don't. Did you text it or email?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay. It's once you look at the view of the place, you really feel like you're in a very spiritual place. I want you to look at it when you have a moment to look at the view of those two mountains. Go ahead, David. Slicha. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Eyal.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know exactly where Mount Sinai is. Do we know for sure that these are the two mountains, or we just suppose?
Everything is supposed to.
Yeah.
You're right. It's a very good question.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's we don't know where Mount Sinai, but scientists think now they have more proofs where it is. But yeah. Would you, if you would know, you would go there, Richie? If you know where is Mount Sinai, would you go and fly and visit it?
Would like to.
Yeah, there's a lot of spirituality there. I always think about those places. Go ahead, continue, David.
Both are on the other side of the Jordan, beyond the west road that is in the land of the Canaanites who dwell in the Arabah, near Gilgal, by the terebinths of Moreh.
Okay, so that's where the mountains. It's not for sure that we know where it is. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
For you are about to cross the Jordan to enter and possess the land that the Lord your God is assigning to you. When you have occupied it and are settled in it, take care to observe all the laws and rules that I have set before you this day.
Okay, so why didn't he start the portion with that phrase? He could have started the whole thing by starting that, then starting with curse and blessing. That's my opinion. Okay, thank you.
Well, I have a question. It
Yes,
implies that you didn't have to start following the rules until you're in the land and have possessed it. It says when you have occupied it and are settled in. But, when do you start? And theoretically, or hopefully they'd already started.
Yeah. Okay, so any comments other than that on that chapter. We're going to move on. There's so much to do here. Okay. So the other David, do you want to read? Or any lady who wants to read? Anyone who wants to read?
I'll read. Thank you.
Okay.
These are the laws and rules that you must carefully observe in the land that the eternal God of your ancestors is giving you to possess as long as you live on earth. You must destroy all the sites at which the nations you are to dispossess worship their gods, whether on lofty mountains and on hills or under any luxuriant tree. Tear down their altars, smash their pillars, put their sacred posts to the fire, and cut down the images of their gods, obliterating their name from that site.
Okay, hold on for a second. Is that anyone has a problem with that? There's no diversity, openness, and there's no acceptance. There's nothing that we can do with the other inhabitants in the land. Anyone wants just to say something? And how do you say to other students, young students, how you teach that? You know,
Gail has her hand up there.
I don't see her. Hold on.
Gail.
Okay.
Oh, do you now?
Now I see you. Yes.
Oh, thank you. This is reminding me of Sodom and Gomorrah when God is going to destroy them all, and Abraham argues, couldn't we find 50 righteous people? But Sodom and Gomorrah, sinned. It says that they were sinful, and that's why they were going to be destroyed. The sin here seems to be idolatry, but these people didn't know, the Canaanites didn't know any different. So yeah, it's uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable. I agree. Yeah. Yes, Meryl?
Eitz Chaim makes a wonderful comment that that the Israelites and this God, our God at that time, was not saying any other way to worship is not okay for other people. The issue was that this will be our land and we'll be under the influence. Were we not going to people this land, we would not have gotten the directive to destroy all evidence of paganism and polytheism. So I think that's the issue. And I think that makes it a little more palatable, because all around the Fertile Crescent, there were other peoples and some nations, and God was not saying to destroy. I mean, when we had to leave Egypt, of course, things got bad for the Egyptians, but at any rate, God was not saying destroy polytheism all over the world, wherever you find it. But here, Taka, we were going to inhabit this land, and it would be a terrible influence.
Yeah. Yes, Judy, or who? Okay,
Beverly? I did have my hand up. I'm really troubled by this. What about all this love the stranger? And
okay,
how can we not live with other people and treat others the way you want to be treated? I mean, all these these famous lines that we've heard. It doesn't make sense to me. I understand what you're saying, Merle, but there's got to be another way.
Well, I'm not the one making the rules, obviously. And I hear what you're saying. I think part of it was, I bet God would have said something different if this were a people who had already come into their own and had already become established in their ways of worship. This was a Nesson people who had not yet developed strength as a community in worshiping God. So
it seems to me, though, to be like a lack of confidence in your people.
Okay.
And what only way you're going to succeed is if you destroy anybody around you who doesn't believe what you believe.
What is God afraid of? Why is he saying it? What is he afraid of? What are the risks? Beverly?
Sorry, I gotta go. Well, thank you, everyone.
You're muted, Beverly.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you. Yeah.
You're muted, Beverly.
This was allegedly written before the Common BCE, before the Common Era, whatever. And then you have allegedly, the coming of Christ. So the Christians take this is also their Bible. And then he said, but I think they're talking about idols. How then, when he says you should not worship any other thing but this one God, how they interpret it differently. I don't believe it. I believe Christ might have been a man, but I don't know. We saw that ship, that boat with you. But how do you then say, negate that? I don't know. I'm having some little fuzziness. I mean, he doesn't say that you can't revere, or when you talk about prophets or something. I think he's talking about those idols. I don't know. I
Yeah,
have a
yeah. So
problem.
if you kind of refer it to today's life, what is if you think about it today in modern times, what is the fear that you foresee if you say as God? What do you think that the issue here about our communities? What is the fears of?
That we would assimilate and we would forget
That's
everything
correct.
that he's taught
That's
us
correct.
so
That we'll
far.
assimilate and we'll forget our heritage in Judaism because we'll be more influenced and swayed by the others. And that's his main fear, in my opinion.
And that's happening.
Yeah. Yep. Now, I just want to give you a personal story. In Israel, there are cities that are very nearby, Jewish cities that are very nearby Arab villages. And with all due respect, the Arab, the religious Arabs, they pray 5 times a day. The muezzin starts at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then every few hours you hear the sound. But in Rosh Hashanah, which is a modern city, in the middle of Rosh Hashanah, in the 5 o'clock in the morning, Shabbat, Rishon, any day in the week, there is such a nice coexistence between the communities. It's loud, it's disturbing somewhat, people who wants to sleep, but that's how we live now, next to communities that practice different religion. Okay. So God wanted, according to what's happening there, God wouldn't let us have that Kfar Kasem next to Rosh Hashanah in modern time. That's how I look at it in today's. David. Yeah.
So, Richie, to what you say, I think this movement away from the rules, the laws has always happened, even when the Torah was written with God's, inspired by God. And so the prophets who wrote this, or the people who put this words in here, Jews were moving away. We saw this with the golden calf, and we're constantly moving away, and they're trying to pull us back. And so these threats now are saying, hey, God chose you, you chose God, stick with it, because we want to be a light to the other nations. And if we assimilate, as Judy says, then we lose that ability to be a light to other nations. And the question that I see is that in today's society as we know it, with soccer on Saturday and football on Saturday and all of these other things that pull us away, how do we moderate to live in today's society and still choose to be Jewish?
Mm-hmm. Well said. Yep.
And it's tough.
It is. And I've seen it as an educator. I see a decline. In the last 33 years that I was at Bethel, I see a decline in attendance, in commitment, and what you say, kids come and leave in the middle of Hebrew school, and Anyhow, so can we continue to read? Judy, do you want to read a little bit? We are on verse 4 on chapter 12.
Okay. Do not worship the Lord your God in like manner, but look only to the site that the Lord your God will choose amidst all your tribes as his habitation, to establish his name there. There you are to go, and there you are to bring your burnt offerings and other sacrifices, your tithes and contributions, your votive and free will offerings, and the firstlings of your herds and flocks.
Okay, hold on for a second. I want to ask you something. the very first, God will choose the place that he will choose. Why doesn't he give the specific place? And this phrase repeats at least 5-6 times in the portion. Why don't we know where God is choosing the place? Why it's so vague? Why it's not specific? Are you guys clear about my question?
One teaching I've heard is that that this refers to the temple.
Okay.
But the Israelites have not entered the promised land yet. So it can't be said that it's the temple, because they don't know about at this point, know about the temple.
Okay.
So that's one explanation why it's sort of a euphemism for the temple.
Okay. Gail, you wanted to say something?
I'm thinking of Jacob when he falls asleep and has the dream and wakes up and he says, God was in this place and I didn't know it. And then I'm thinking of Moses and the burning bush, where, he sees this humble place where God is. So that's the idea that God can really be in any place. I think it's a Hasidic teaching. It's very beautiful. It's in our Siddur. God is in any place where you let him in, where we let him in. But this is different. This is more like not an institution, but a formal setting aside a place where the community would come to worship. Those other experiences were individual encounters with God, but this is communal.
Yeah. Can I push a little bit farther and say, why is he saying the place that I will choose and not the place that you will choose? That's my question to you. I'm trying to push it a little bit. Why it's not the place that you will choose to sacrifice? If someone wants to give me the answer, otherwise I can help you with that. Beverly, I don't hear you. You smile, but I don't hear you.
Smiling because if he gave it to us, we would have too many opinions to where to be.
Okay.
So
Okay. That's a good.
This is where we're going to dinner. I'm not asking you,
Okay.
But I don't know.
What is the other reason? Look at the non-Jewish, the Gentiles. They really can do what they need to do and sacrifice, or whatever they do, they can do anywhere. We're different than the Gentiles because your sacrifices will be where I tell you, unlike the other nations. Okay, I just want to make this point clear to you.
And it might change according to circumstances.
That's correct.
That's correct.
That's correct. Very well.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to run to shul. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. And
Shabbat shalom, Richie.
Okay, Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Right. So that's the point here, is that God is giving them is cautioning them and tells them, don't do what the non-Jews, the Gentiles are doing. I'll tell you where. He's pretty dominant. He has full control here, or wants the control. I don't know if he has a full control. Okay. Anyhow, let's move on. Judy, sorry for cutting you, but that's my point. I would forget it if I didn't bring it. Okay.
No problem.
Go ahead. Continue.
Verse 7, together with your households, you shall feast there before the Lord your God, happy in all the undertakings in which the Lord your God has blessed you. You shall...
Go ahead.
Continue. You shall not act at all as we now act here, every man as he pleases, because you have not yet come to the allotted haven that the Lord your God is giving you. When you cross the Jordan and settle in the land that the Lord your God is allotting to you, and he grants you safety from all your enemies around you, and you live in security, then you must bring everything that I command you to this site where the Lord your God will choose to establish his name. Your burnt offerings and other sacrifices, your tithes and contributions, and all the choice votive offerings that you vow to the Lord. And you shall rejoice before the Lord your God with your sons and daughters, and with your male and female slaves, along with the Levite in your settlements, for he has no territorial allotment among you.
Okay. Oh, wow. A lot of stuff here. What is the two words that repeats twice here? You should rejoice. You should be happy. You should eat. You include the stranger. Here you include the stranger, but when you get to the land, you should burn all of their idols, including their cities. Here, the stranger has He gets attention from God. He wants everyone
Eyal.
to be, yeah.
Excuse me, do we think that we're trying to influence those people to become us?
It's a good question. It's a good question. Good thought, Gail.
So I'm seeing here an answer to David Kunz's question earlier about why did they have to wait to get to the land to start practicing these commandments. In verse 8, you shall not act at all as we now act here, every man as he pleases, because you have not yet come to the allotted haven that God is giving you, so a secure place. But I do not like the translation, every man as he pleases, because what it says in Hebrew is kol hayashar be'enav, everything that is straight, literally, or righteous in his eyes, which indicates that we have a moral or an ethical conscience, that it's giving human beings a credit for having some sense of right and wrong before they go into the land.
Yep. Excellent translation, by the way, from Hebrew to the English. Kol hayashar be'enav doesn't have anything to do for every man. It really doesn't connect well. It's not translated well.
No.
You got it. You got it very well. Thank you. Someone else wanted to say something before we move on? Okay. So what about the Levi here? Why is including the Levi b'sha'arechem? Why the Levi is very important to him, and you'll see it later, it repeats. The Levi. Why are they being included with the family and with the stranger? Does anyone have an idea why? Several reasons. First, they don't have property. They don't have land. Okay. The Levi is a clergy. It's a group of people that depends on the good hearts of people, generosity of people. Okay, so God doesn't forget them because, and Moses doesn't forget them too, because they are serving the people to serve God. So he takes care of the Levi at all times. And the next sentence is very repetitious. Take care not to sacrifice your burnt offering in any place you like. Doesn't it connect with what we said earlier? I'm talking about the next sentence. Okay, this is my proof to what I tried to say earlier. You only sacrifice where I show you. Okay, and he repeats, it's so important to him, to God, eat. That's the proof to what happened earlier. Okay, so Judy, finish. Go ahead. Take care.
From 13?
Yeah.
Take care not to sacrifice your burnt offerings in any place you like, but only in the place that the Lord will choose in one of your tribal territories. There you shall sacrifice your burnt offerings, and there you shall observe all that I enjoin upon you. But whenever you desire, you may slaughter and eat meat in any of your settlements according to the blessing that the Lord your God has granted you. The impure and the pure alike may partake of it, as of the gazelle and the deer.
Mm-hmm.
But you must not partake of the blood. You shall pour it out on the ground like water.
Okay, so does anyone want to say something about? Is that clear? Yeah. Okay. I think I want to jump, unless anyone wants to say something. I want to move farther, a little bit farther. There is something very interesting. You know what, Judy, take another sentence and then we'll jump down. Okay, just another phrase, one more. Yeah.
You may not partake in your settlements of the tithes of your new grain or wine or oil, or of the firstlings of your herds and flocks, or of any of the votive offerings that you vow, or of your freewill offerings, or of the contributions.
Mhm.
These you must consume before the Lord your God in the place that the Lord your God will choose.
Yeah.
You and your sons and your daughters, your male and female slaves, and the Levite in your settlements, happy before the Lord your God in all your undertakings. Be sure not to neglect the Levite as long as you live in your land.
Okay, so this is actually a repetition on what we said earlier. Again, he will choose the place. Don't forget the Levite, and don't forget. Okay, so what happens when you bring the sacrifices? What happens if it's too heavy and it's too far to carry them. Don't, it's, you remember, it's an agriculture society that they come from hours to go to the place that God will choose. And we know where it is. It's Jerusalem. Let's say you have to go from Beersheba with your cattle, with your camel. What happens if you bring the gifts and the thighs, but it's too heavy for you because you're elderly or you're handicapped, or it's just physically you're unable to take it with you? What does anyone want to tell me before you read? What is the compromise here?
You get to sell them.
Okay.
You get to sell it and turn it into money.
Okay. Sell them, or you get them to money and take the money with you to Jerusalem, right?
Right.
And
That's what I read. Yeah.
Yes. And there, it's not real money. It's silver. It's silver. You wrap it and you take it with you. Can you use this money on the way to buy shoes or food or Diet Coke or whatever? No, you have to wrap it, keep it until you get to Jerusalem or to the place that God will say, and you spend this money to buy what you want to buy with this money. Now, if you want to buy a rich camel, no, you don't sacrifice a camel, a sheep or a goat or whatever, you have to bring enough money to buy it when you get there. Okay, so let's read that. Judy, can you read 21, verse 21?
Yes. If the place where the Lord has chosen to establish his name is too far from you, you may slaughter any of the cattle or sheep and that the Lord gives you, as I have instructed you, and you may eat to your heart's content in your settlements. Eat it, however, as the gazelle and the deer are eaten. The impure may eat it together with the pure. But make sure that you do not partake of the blood, for the blood is the life, and you must not consume the life with the flesh.
Okay. Very good. We're going to jump. So anyone wants to say something about it? You see, it's blood is life, is the neshama, is the soul. Isn't it interesting concept here? When you eat, some people eat steak, but they want it raw. Okay, not all the blood is out, right? So just think of what God said to you when you eat, when you don't have it fully cooked. Just remember that portion.
Same thing with haggis. Eyal, the phrase we just read, these are lessons in integrity. And I think rather than the actual, because they don't resonate with us today, the question is it makes meaning to me. And these are just saying, like you said, you can't use the money that you got from selling something that you were going to give for something other than giving it. And so again, at the time that the Torah was, that these words were written, it made sense to them. It doesn't make sense to us, but these are still integrity issues. And that's how I interpret it today.
Okay. Can we jump to verse number 7 on chapter 13? Who wants to read? Maybe the other David again? David, yeah.
Thank you. If your brother, your own mother's son, or your son or daughter, or the wife of your bosom, or your closest friend entices you in secret, saying, "Come, let us worship other gods, whom neither you nor your ancestors have experienced, from among the gods of the peoples around you, either near to you or distant, anywhere from one end of the earth to the other. Do not ascend or give heed to any of them. Show no pity or compassion, and do not cover up the matter, but take that person's life. Let your hand be the first to put that person to death, followed by the hand of the rest of the people. Stone that person to death for having sought to make you stray from the eternal your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thus all Israel will hear and be afraid, and such evil things will not be done again in your midst."
Okay. So it's a very good paragraph to teach 7th grader, isn't it? Interesting how to, what is the point here? This is a quite strong message here. If one of your family members is rebellious and wants to try something else, another, you kill him. What about a stranger, someone that is not related to you, trying it? How do you perceive that? What do you make out of this phrase? Anyone has any comment on that?
Yeah, it's pretty violent.
It is, yeah. It's it's like, in the Jewish community or in the Bedouin community, if you're not loyal, they do that. They kill their sister if she's, not loyal, but in Judaism, that encourages people to be aggressive, to be violent. Of course, it doesn't have any relevance to modern time. Anyone can help me with that? Because I have a big problem with that. Yes, Beverly.
Can't help you with it, but I have a question. We're all, I think, in this group, all Jewish, and we read this and we interpret it, etc. Let's say I wasn't Jewish and I wanted to convert. How much of this in conversion are you reading and learning? I mean, if I had to read, if I were saying, well, I love to embrace Judaism, I love the holidays, I love the people, but now I want to convert. How much of this do I have to read and understand? I think I would say, okay, fine, I'm just going to be secular. I'm going to celebrate. I need to have some clarification there.
Yeah.
It's Beverly, number one, I gave you a book in the chat called To Life, also by Kushner.
Yeah.
And it answers, or at least it helped me understand a lot of the questions.
Okay.
And what you're raising is, we're studying the Bible. And what I've learned from this class is the Bible is not meant to be read. It's meant to be studied. And if you just read it, it is violent. And we see these contradictions. And the question is, how do you make sense of these contradictions? And some of them, we throw our hands up. I throw my hands up and say, I can't. It's violent. We shouldn't do it. And I'm hoping that the Talmud and all these other rabbis that said, wait a minute, this is crazy. We're not going to do this. But at the time, from what was going on in that world, it may have made sense to have these extremes to pull people to shock them, the shock value. And that's the only way that I can interpret it, as shock value, to say, look at what you're doing and moderate what you're doing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was great. I want you to just to see about the distance, which is chapter 14, verses 24. That's where I misplaced the place earlier. Judy, chapter 14, verse 24. Should the distance, remember about the money and about the distance? That's where I was about to refer to earlier. Should the distance be too great? Can you see?
Yes. Should the distance be too great for you, should you be unable to transport them because the place where the Lord your God has chosen to establish his name is far from you, and because the Lord your God has blessed you, you may convert them into money. Wrap up the money and take it with you to the place that the Lord your God has chosen, and spend the money on anything you want, cattle, sheep, wine, or other intoxicant, or anything you may desire. And you shall feast there in the presence of the Lord your God and rejoice with your household. But do not neglect the Levite in your community, for he has no hereditary portion as you have. Every third year you shall bring out the full tithe of your yield of that year, but leave it within your settlements. Then the Levite, who has no hereditary portion as you have, and the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow in your settlements shall come and eat their fill, so that the Lord your God may bless you in all the enterprises you undertake.
Excellent, excellent. What about the widow heir? Why just the widow? Where's the widow heir here? It's not fair. It's not inclusive here. Okay, I just wanted to bring that point. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you one clip. And then I have to leave exactly at 10, but I want to show you one clip for 30 seconds. If Rebecca is still awake.
Yeah, which one?
The one in at the festival.
The guy.
Yeah, the American group that came to visit the festival where this 10/11 happened.
Beautiful.
And I found it to be very well connected to the Parsha. And then I just want to tell you that I'm leaving at 10 because I have to go to a party, and to a celebration. And I want to tell you that it was a great class. Think about the questions I asked you before. Here's the YouTube.
Hey, my friends, I wanted to come to you from this holy place. This is a place of terrible destruction and tragedy.
Back in 2022,
Sorry.
to very
That's okay. That's okay.
big figures. It really wasn't until February of this
It's okay.
בהגנה על המקום חלם להקים שם כרם, והנה מקימים אותו כרם.
No, it's the
כרם
first
גדול,
one. It's
אלפי
yeah.
גפנים.
I don't know why it's doing that.
Okay. You know what? We can pass on that. Okay, here it is. Here it is.
Also a place of great nation, because the Jewish people are defending themselves, and they're doing it nobly.
This is where the massacre happened.
And it's important to keep showing videos from a place like this, because the only answer to the lies, to the propaganda, to the denial, you can't believe that people deny the Holocaust. People are denying this. Or if they're not denying it, they're somehow believing that these people, these sweet, beautiful young faces, somehow deserve to die. They're living on someone else's land. These beautiful faces. Every one of them has a flag attached. And they died, Al-Kiddush Hashem, the sanctification of God's name. The sages tell us that anyone whose life is taken because they're Jewish has the status of a tzaddik, of a righteous individual. These people came here to express their love for each other, for all humanity. We need to be aware that there's a lot of love in this world, and a lot of people want to promote love, but there's some really bad people. And Judaism never denied that. Judaism always acknowledged and acknowledges that we need strength because of the bad people.
Okay. All right. Okay. Rebecca, that's great. Okay. And so I just want to show it somehow. That's the blessing and the curse that you can bring it together. This group, American rabbi, brought the group to Israel to see where the massacre happened. At any rate, I want to hope that you can come up with a question. With the question I asked you at the beginning of the Parsha, what is the values that the person that we rescued at the beginning of the week has to do with this Parsha? I'm sure you can talk about yourself about it in the next few minutes. I really would like to hear about it when I talk to Rebecca later. Otherwise, I want to wish you a good Shabbat. We had a great time together. And thank you so much for your time and for your participation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.